it's going to be a very interesting session tonight, even as we look at quite a lot of things, a lot of developments in the polity, a lot of things happening, you know, and I mean, the topic for tonight actually dovetails into quite a lot in terms of different aspects of our national life and the conversations that
recording in progress.
The conversations that many of us have had, you know, and the conversations that continue to go on regarding our cultural values, our cultural heritage, and the way we bring up our children, the things we do, the way we train them, there have been quite a lot of conversations, and of course, many of them I've already given a background to this, but let me provide this background to our viewers there. Okay, so I had a notification for this Facebook post by a lady called Bose Dara, one of our members, and actually relates to cultural values and the way we carry on our traditions as a people, and of course it's very, very interesting, and some of you might have seen it, some of you, our viewers, might have seen it, but for the benefit of those who haven't seen it, of course, I'm just going to give a further lowdown. So basically, you had this post by this person called whose profile name is Kems on social media, and she's actually written this to say, well, new generation mothers, she's just put it there, new generation mothers, I beseech thee, let some names end with the old generation. There's no reason for you to introduce your 5-month-old. I mean, you're giving your baby a name, or you're introducing your 5-month-old child to someone else and say, my child's name is Bosse. So this person, actually says it's really very, very, very old school and very sick, more or less, not really proper anymore. And of course, we've had a few responses. Of course, we're only going to deal with 2 supportive responses to that tweet. And one that was against. And you had someone called with the handle name Ditola respond, like, when I gave birth to my son and one of the grandparents gave a name idea, I was like, Granny, please dead it, as in kill it. How do you, as in kill that idea, don't bring that idea forward? How do you see this blessed caramel of creamy human flesh, referring to the baby now? I want to name this child, this boy, Sunday, just because he was born on a Sunday, So, as in, this person had a child, and then the grandparents the grandparents wanted to name the child Sunday, as is the tradition in many, especially in many Nigerian families, So, if a child is born on Sunday, you name if it's a boy, Sunday. If it's a girl, Bosse. If the parent, or maybe the dad or the mom, or if the dad is away or something, you say Tokumbo, is it Tokumbo? Abidemi. If someone who was born abroad, you name the child Tokumbo. Quite a lot of things, but of course, these are the things some of these people are going against. Please mute yourself if I'm not. I'll call you, And then there was another person who wrote again, who put a laughter emoji and said, one auntie from my husband's family wanted to name my son Jimo. I'm presuming this person is from a Muslim family, one or even Christian family, because Jimo really, I think, it's a Yoruba. It's the way we call. It's the way the Yorubas call Friday, I believe. So one auntie from my husband's family wanted to name my son Jimo because he was born on Friday. My mother-in-law changed it for her. That means the mother-in-law just read straight away and all this. And of course, now we had one post that was anti that, someone who actually, one of those who actually has such a name. And so this person, Bossede Mune Idara Road. So I came across this post on. I can only conclude that Kems, I won't go with the adjective, I mean, that as if that person was high on drugs. What are you guys turning the world to? So you want to turn everything to Western culture that deprived us of our culture and tradition, and you have serious problems. Don't mention that my beautiful name condescendingly. I love the name and I'm very proud of it. And then went on and on and on and on and on and on. So tonight, we're going to look at it, and that's why the topic for tonight's webinar is just aptly put in line with this. And we're asking the question, and we're saying cultural predilections and influences, the curious case of Nigeria. And one of the reasons why we put it as the curious case of Nigeria is that when we go outside to visit Western countries and some others, you actually come across the Chinese, you come across the Indians. They're so deep into their culture, and the children bear their names, and the first language the children have got to learn to speak, usually their own languages. This is not me trying to sway the conversation one way or the other, because I know there will be people who are for and against. Please feel free to express yourselves. I'm just giving a background, so please just bear with me on this call, and then. So the first languages many of them actually learn are their native, their parents' original tongues, and then and those names they bear them as well. They hardly, you see them in the Western world, they still bear. You still hear the chung, you still hear, Moise, they bear those names, and in fact I've come across so many Somalis, those who migrated from Somalia during the war and all this. I've hardly come across any one of them that actually bears an English name. Usually their native Islamic name, or some of them that are their native Ethiopian names, Somali names, and some other things. Of course, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. And I've come across many South Africans that the names are so, I practically have to ask them, please, how do you want me to pronounce your name? Because I know that if I dared to make an attempt, I would actually be murdering the name. So enough of my intro. I believe there's quite a lot to talk about. So I'm just going to start. We'll open the floor tonight, and good to have quite a lot of you in the house tonight. So let me start with our director of budget. Let me ask, what is your take on this? Everybody, you're going to have your say on this, and quite a few people said to me that they're doing certain things. They want to quickly finish up and join us on this, but it's a very interesting one. So I want to ask, I've seen you join on this. What is your perspective on this? You've seen the original post that actually gave rise to this topic tonight. What are your feelings? And please, those of you on social media, we want to hear from you. We want to we want to get comments from you as well. We want you to join this conversation. So let us start with Mr. Bidemi Onojobi. What is your take on this?
Good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Sincerely, it's a very interesting topic. And one thing many of us really do not, most people don't appreciate, is the fact that the reality of the world we are in today call for everybody to go back to his father's house, right? We are now having a much more integrated global environment. And like they say in politics, every politics is local. Yes, in our environment, we say, oh, people ask where you come from and all of that, but it does matter. Diversity is a big thing in the world. So if you don't have your root, or you have lost your root, when the discussion of diversity is coming up, then you are nowhere to be found. Because if you can't claim, if you can't stand in your own place, you can't truly represent the other culture that you think you have imbibed over time, right? So for me, basically, our culture, and the other thing is this, which is also critical to the discussion and our essence, is that your culture, your tradition, in a big way define your person. It defines your identity, right? even most of this culture were being brought down on the basis of religion, mostly, right? But you still hear Jesus or Christ, the son of David from Judea. So he's still being defined to his own roots, right? And basically, really, I think the challenge we've had over time is that people believe that it is difficult for you to maintain your local identity and yet be have a global view, which is not true, right? And I think for me, I want to believe that's where that is coming from. That for me to be accepted in a global environment, I need to have a global outlook. But like you have mentioned, a German, right, a Deutsch will insist that you pronounce his name. A Russian with several consonants in their names, you have to learn it, right? And you have mentioned the Chinese and all of that. Basically, I think this is basically, I would say it's mostly an African thing, and it comes from the place of inferiority complex, right? And of course, I would not blame people so much. I think there is this general international politics to put African and everything African down. But if you ask me, we have to stand up for ourselves and defend our heritage, irrespective of whatever appeal or whatever influence that is forcing us to drop our identity to become, because the best you can be if you adopt another person is that you will become a second. I'll give you a clear example. When we were growing up, I used to have a cousin of mine who was just jokingly, not real adoption, was considered an adopted child of another family friend. And of course, if you are adopted, you are 17, you are adopted into a family, the last child of that family is 2 years. So if you are coming into that family, you queue behind that 2 years, and that's what we have done to ourselves. So if we are adopting another culture, another tradition, you queue behind the lowest in that particular culture. And I would like to rest it there for now.
Thank you so much, PLIDE Odojobi. We're still coming back to you a few times on that. Thank you so much for taking the floor on that. And
yeah, me too, sir.
Oh, thank you
so much. Sorry, I usually do this all the time, and all of you have to usually remind me every time to unmute myself. Thank you so much for that wonderful insight you provided on this, because you've actually given a different thing to that. And you talked about the Russians with multiple consonants and some other things, and the fact that the further analysis you gave about an adopted child actually having to queue in the house when you come into the house, that actually says a lot. And the fact, even though much later I'm going to come to you on that thing you said about, there is this thing about, there is this agenda more or less to kill off the African, our pride in the things that actually represent us, and to take on board the things of the Western world. Because I've actually been questioning, really, that should we be blaming the Western world, really, or ourselves, because we're even more Western than the Westerners. Whatever fact we get from the Westerners, the way we take it, the way we go with it is so much. For example, you talk about the baby mama thing, the way it has come into the culture here, in the culture. And I'm not talking of single mothers now. Single mother is different from baby mama. You know what we're talking about. Single mothers are just, at times, people who have been unfortunate, at times, to have met some really terrible guys, or things just didn't work out. So that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people who specifically go out to maybe seduce someone and say, you know what, I want to be baby mama to this guy, and then they go out in the press to announce it, I'm your baby. I'm just talking about certain facts that have come out that we've taken from another culture, that it's so scary. So I'm going to come to you much later on that to take that, whether it's the West that is to blame for what is going on right now, or whether we ourselves are. Thank you so much, PLIDE Onojobi. I know that Ayole actually joined, but I don't want to come to him first on that, because I think he's someone who is dying to be part of this, so I'll probably call you maybe second to the last or something. Demola Ogunogba, you may unmute yourself and let's hear from you. Demola.
Okay, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good to be here. You've said a lot. The way culture is generally, like what Mr. P was saying, that if any child is born on a Sunday, you want them on a Sunday. But I still feel that we ourselves, we are going to work on our own culture. It is the way we behave that others follow. For example, this issue of false scarcity of a thing, when immediately Tinubu said, "Oh, remove of false subsidy," other filling stations, either they shut down or they don't even sell at all. In terms of culture, we are the one that we have to help ourselves, in order to be able to flow within ourselves. I think I don't have much about, I'll still join to get more knowledge from other companies that
Thank you so much, Chief Ogunogba. Thank you so much, and congratulations on your new role. Thank you so much for that. So let me go to my future president on this. Josh, you may unmute yourself and let's hear from you.
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
And such an insightful session already. And you see, this is my own take on this. Probably because they didn't have much education. And education has lost its value now in Nigeria. Usually, while I was growing up, I'm still a young boy, but they usually teach us something in Yoruba culture, as the reasons why this name is given to this person. Every name has its meaning. And in those days, they don't just name a child. Names comes either because of the incidents that happened, even from the Bible there, or name comes by a definition. In the Bible itself, a name is more important than the personality of the person. That's why even Jesus said he takes his name more than, his word more than his name. Okay, sometimes he said he has given a name, everything name boils down to everything. So while we, the younger generation, are doing this, is because we don't have the knowledge of why our parents usually. That Abosede was one of my sister's name. And my mom, while I was growing up, told me the deep meaning of that name and why she was giving that name. And I was like, this name looks local, but my grandfather gave.
Without going deep into if there's anything private within your family, that can you just, because we're learning.
Yeah. So
on that.
So the name is because there is this incident that happened that, and it has meaning. So I want to believe the knowledge of our people is limited. Without saying too much, at some point, so we have to rethink. Reading history too, we know that some of these Westerners always feel, should I say, they don't always like to call us by our names as Africans because they feel it's too complex for them. I don't want to talk about Asians or whatever. Now, let's talk of footballers. We know of some footballers that intentionally short their names or give them another name just so that they can be able to pronounce them. I'll blame the Africans because they accept it. But yet, some of these incidents have made people, okay, let's just accept the way it is. Let's not give ourselves a complex name. Someone in the US now, probably me, if I'm in the US and my grandpa gives my daughter that name, I might feel bad because I may say, okay, how do our classmates pronounce them? How do all of those things are things I think they put into consideration to name or to say such thing. You understand? So let me just shut it there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's because
Thank you so
much, Joshua. For in fact, I was really, and I'm going to be very honest with you. I was really shocked because I know because of your age, I know that you're from that age grade that actually didn't have much experience of public schools. You know, a lot of that generation went to private schools and all this. So and were brought up to speak English from the home alone and all those things. You know, so. And you've given more insights than I could have ever guessed you could actually give of that, and I thank you so much. It does so because you talked about your own older sister actually. Our name is given the name Bosse at birth, and some other things associated with it. Because in different cultures in Nigeria, in the Igbo culture, in the Yoruba culture, in the Hausa culture, Efik, Ibibio, Berom, the Kanuri, and Co. A lot of names actually speak a lot of languages and actually give a lot of meanings. And at times, like we said at the beginning, at times you don't really need to tell me too much about your history and everything. Once you tell me your name, like for example, Abidemi Onojobi, so Abidemi, I just know straight away. The dad probably traveled abroad when he was giving birth to, or the dad went out of town, or something must have given rise to that name. That's the way all these names are given in our culture. So at the end of the day, let's hear from the next person. I think I can. I think I can bring in Ayole at this moment. I always like. I don't like bringing in Ayole too much with Josh. Many of you already know that two of them are like Tom and Jerry in a good way. Two of them never agree on anything, So, but let's hear from Ayole, and I'm going to bring in our ladies as well. They're quite. We have some ladies in the house as well. Ayole, PLIDE Lukman, let's hear from you on this.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
And happy Sunday, happy New Month to you all. This topic today is a very, very serious one. Yes, for me, I don't blame the Western world. I blame we, the black, especially we, the Nigerians. We've totally lost our culture, and it's affecting us. Maybe, yes, I will agree that it's as a result of inferiority complex. Because I could remember, was it Hello, sir. I could remember 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago? My wife told me that in my church that one of my junior daughter, that the teacher in church approached her that they will be having, they're having their children anniversary by August or September, that they want the senior one to come and recite some Bible verses in Yoruba for them on that day of the anniversary. So I now asked her, I said, why will she from my own class go and recite Yoruba for them in her sister's class? Do they not have anybody that can do that for them? And moreover, why are they choosing her? Those are the questions I have, because even my first daughter herself, she don't speak Yoruba fluently, but she understands it.
She doesn't. I'm sorry to
Yoruba is not fluent, sincerely. Yoruba is not fluent.
She doesn't speak Yoruba, or you didn't teach her to speak Yoruba,
we are trying.
You didn't teach her to speak Yoruba.
No, we are trying, but it depends on the environment, sir. I won't lie to you. It depends on the environment. Yoruba is not fluent.
I'm sorry, it's not like...
No, I understand.
When you say it depends on the environment, are you saying you live among Chinese people? Are you saying you live among Chinese people that makes it more difficult to teach your child Yoruba in that Chinese community you live in?
What I discover is that, you know, when the kids, when they don't mix up with people within the environment, it becomes difficult because in school, even in school, they do teach them oral English. I could remember when I was trying to take my younger daughter some subject, one of our homework, we could not understand each other. It was the mother that now told me they do use oral English to teach them than what me I'm using. So that's where I'm going. And you discover that most.
Hello, have you muted yourself or something? We can't hear you anymore. PLIDE Lukman. Okay, we'll come back to PLIDE Lukman. I think there's something wrong with his audio.
Students that live in foreign, because we don't speak much of Yoruba, and that's where.
Go on. We can hear you now. Go on, please. It's about to reduce the name. You don't mind me, Nicola.
Okay, you know what? Look, I think because of I think that PLIDE Lukman, I think I'll come back to you. I think your network is really not standing up. So I'll come back to you in a bit. Let me please help us, because you're saying something very important. As in, why would they come to take your daughter from one class to go and actually recite Yoruba poem for another class? It means in that other class they could not get a single person that could actually recite that poem in their language. And I'm sure in all the schools across the north, the south, everywhere in Nigeria, you have the same problem. The Igbo language being, I think the Igbos have even really done well with their language. The Hausas have done really well with their language. PLIDE Lukman. Okay, I think you're back now. Can you okay, let's just let you go.
So as I was saying, so I now asked them, do they not have other kids within the company in our own class? Why we should now go and do for? They said most of them that they've approached, they could not do that recitation in Yoruba. So it becomes, I felt so that our own is even still better. So I felt so bad. You can see how deep this thing is. We've lost our culture, and I pity the next generation coming. So it's something we need to look into and do the needful. Because even you mentioned of other countries, even in Nigeria here, we see most of these Indians. You always identify them through their dressing. But it wasn't like that when it comes to us in other countries. So it's a serious issue that we need to look into. Thank you. Let me rest for now, sir.
Thank you so much, PLIDE Lukman. Really appreciate you that despite the technical problem, you still came back with that. For me, going back to that original thing that gave rise to this topic, to this conversation, it was a lady named Bosse that actually responded to someone saying, you know what, that name is so bad, it's so oldschool.com that no sane person should still be bearing Bosse in this day and age. And I've seen people in the Western world, maybe I'm on a visit or something, and people look at me like, am I crazy to actually be telling them my name is Tunde? Oh, my name is Faye. They look at me like I'm crazy. And they go like, have you not got, I'm talking of fellow Nigerians mostly. And they're like, have you not got an English name that you can use? And then, quite a lot of times I come across people from other races who go like, how do we pronounce your name? I make them pronounce it. Because if you meet South Africans on the streets, if you're meeting them in an office, you've got to, sorry, I'm just saying, a very hypothetical name, and you've got to pronounce it Nkunkunkuzi. you have to pronounce their name Nkukunkuzi. You know, they're not going to give you an English name to pronounce. So, and then, of course, you touched on something, and that was why I wasn't putting you on the spot. I was just questioning you when you said that it's because of the environment. So I was like, was it, first of all, you said, you know, your children cannot really speak Yoruba, and I'm like, is it that they cannot speak or you did not teach them? And it is not you alone, because many of us, in fact, we take pride in our children not being able to speak our local languages. As in, when I go to a party, you know, with my children, with PLIDE, Abidemi Onojobi or PLIDE, Ogechukwu, for example, I want my children to sound so posh that they can't even speak Yoruba at all. I think many of us, I'm not saying that's what I do, I'm just saying that's the way many of us actually do. Our children cannot even speak our language. Not only can they not speak our language, they hardly want to identify with our culture as well. Everything in our culture is evil to our children. Of course, I'm not talking about some of those olden days traditional practices that are so archaic in themselves, like, you know, when a king dies, someone has to be killed to be buried with the king. You know, I'm talking of basic things in our tradition. You know, when our children begin to look at us like we're crazy, when we prostrate for our fathers, or when the ladies genuflect for our mothers, and then our children are looking at us and going like, well, I mean, that's against your human rights. I mean, dad, if your dad is saying you should prostrate, that's against your human rights. And that's because we've lost, you know, let me call a few more people there, you know. I know, let's call Tolu Daramola. Tolu, let's get your take on this. Tolu.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yeah, I've actually been smiling throughout this conversation because I'm just going to give you 3 different scenarios, and I think that will fit.
Were you already preparing for this topic before we even
Yeah, because when I heard the discussion was about names, it was very amusing to me because I have 2 cases that I constantly have to defend. I'm going to use my son. When I had my first son, he had Yoruba names, but the father had insisted on an English name. And because I had not agreed with the English name, I had ended up using his initials. You know, when people ask me for his name, I give them his initials and not his name. Surprisingly, my son got to secondary school and he started getting into fights. And I was like, oh, God, why are you getting into fights? He said, I told them not to call me Michael. If they can't call my Yoruba name, they should call my initials. And I will tell you, I have never been so proud of him in my life because I know the values I've put in him. And ironically, his Yoruba is very, very poor. I don't know, for some reason, when my children started speaking, they had an accent I couldn't place. I don't know where the accent came from. They were born, bred, buttered in Agege. So I don't know where they got that foreign accent from, but it's a joke I still can't, get over. However, they are rather very proud of their heritage despite the accent that they have. And this is something that he stands by. If you cannot call him by his Yoruba name, he will tell you, then call me by my initials. He will not willingly respond to somebody calling him Michael without a nod from me saying, you are the one they are calling. Say, why can't you call MD or why can't you call Chimilore? And that's the older one. Now, the younger one, his name, I will tell you his name. His name is Enioluwafe. And from when he could speak, he would not let anybody shorten his name.
Oh my God.
I'm saying if you call him Eni or you call him Enioluwa, he will not answer you. He would actually correct you and tell you, my name is Enioluwafe. If you cannot call it, call me ED. He also has an English name given by his father, which it does not. There is only one person that any Oluwafe has ever allowed to call him Richard. He does not, he won't even answer. If you call Richard, he won't answer you. If you call any, he won't answer you. If you don't spell out his name, he's not going to answer. For me, it's even a joke. Because like your name is long, okay, let them shorten it. He won't answer. Even my mom knows. He will correct you. My name is Enioluwafe. Now, having said that, there is a third case. I have a friend who is a Polish. Now, his surname is very complex. I can pronounce it is Maxilovich. And The first time
Sorry,
it
can
told
you go
me
again? What's the surname? You said long. Can you pronounce?
Maxilovish.
Okay.
Maxilovish.
Okay.
So the first time he told me the name, I said, "Do your colleagues call that name?" He said, "Well, my name, I have an English name, but that is my surname. So if you're going to call my surname, you're going to have to pronounce it right. I'm not going to change my surname for anyone." And when I met him, I told him, "Well, you're going to have to pronounce my name because I don't have an English name." And we spent about 30 minutes getting him to pronounce our names correctly. And he figured it out. So now he calls our name, he calls our local names, and he calls it correctly. Where am I going with this? At the end of the day, it is really up to us how we are addressed. I don't know if you're getting me. Anybody can make you a proposition to give them an alternative. But at the end of the day, it is your personal position, whether you choose to respond to their abbreviations or their nicknames, that decides if it sticks. My younger son has been telling people since he could speak that he does not like his name being abbreviated. He is 13 in a few weeks, and he will never, nobody dares. If you call any, he knows you are not calling him. In fact, if my mom is there, she will tell you, he will not answer you. If it is any Luafe you are calling, call the name completely because you need down. Do you get? So he's not an adult, but he was able to stand up for himself. Of course, it took me and my mom also supporting him. You know, when he tells people, "I'm not going to answer to abbreviations," and they want to enforce it or bully him into accepting, we have had to stand up and say, you know, he doesn't want the abbreviation. So if you can't call it, call the initials. You don't have to spell it out. Call him his initials. They would answer you. They would not answer to an abbreviation. So we never really allowed anybody bully him into, you know, compromising. So sometimes we might not be able to change the whole society at once, but you know, one person at a time, one child at a time, we might actually be able to pass on nuggets of our culture, of our heritage, and you know, without actually being aggressive about it. I just decided to use my children's name as an example of how we can inculcate our cultures without actually being confrontational. Things like food also is an issue. My son has been to a party where they insisted on serving rice to children. And he saw amala and he said, "Mommy, I'm not eating rice. I want amala, you know now." And I went to meet them. I said, "Is there amala for kids?" They said no. I said, "Okay, give me amala for my son." I collected my own plate of amala and I gave it to him. When the caterer saw the way he ate it, the caterer came back to ask him if he wanted more. So sometimes it's our assumption, you know, that makes us feel that people want us to waive our heritage. In fact, our willingness to waive our heritage is what encourages other cultures. The West will give you their culture and you accept it. Have you presented your own? You have not. Most times you just allow your own to get buried under theirs. Try to push your cultures now and then. When I was working in the office, most of my suits were done with Ankara. I had dresses, I had suits made in prints. And one of these organs tried to complain. And I said, "Can you tell me what exactly is wrong besides the fabric?" You know, and I was able to hold it up. So we need to, in our individual spaces, stand up in little ways for our culture if we are really serious about letting it stand the test of times. The Yoruba culture is at a very risky point. It's at the risk of being eliminated. Anybody who knows my background knows I studied fine art. I'm passionate about the African culture, regardless of how my finesse sounds. I remain passionate and dedicated to promoting African cultures wherever I am. And that is not to say I conform completely to the traditional definition or to the traditional biases of the culture. However, when it comes to things like language, fashion, and food, I believe these are areas of our cultures that we can export with confidence wherever we find ourselves. I yield.
Wow, thank you so much, Tolu. Wow. In fact, those stories about those children, they're so interesting. And you know that a little child will insist from from infancy to being called to being called their full name, and all, that says quite a lot. And then you talked about the child going to a party and saying, I like Amala. Obviously, they would have liked it. They've got to have developed some kind of liking for it within the home, but...
Oh, my children, no, he loves his swallow. Don't joke with it. We call him Baba Amala.
Fantastic. And then, it's not just that he liked the Amala at that party. It was the story that you told. It was what happened as a result. Of course, they reserved the Amala for adults, right? From your story. You had to take it for yourself and forgo anything for yourself so your child could have that Amala. And then the child had the Amala, and then because of that, the caterer repented of our iniquities. Right? So, and you said something that we yield the ground because we're having AI summarize. It's an AI summarize session we're having today, so we're gonna get these notes at the end, and all things, So basically, I like that bit about we yield our cultures too easily. You know what? You're not gonna be able to pronounce my Nigerian name. Just call me Jonathan and all things. So Kenny, I can see your hands are up. But please just bear with me a moment. I dragged Richard Jimo out of a meeting, and I know Bossa is there. Bossa is there now, the main woman involved, one of those involved in this. She's there as well. She's had to rearrange our lessons to be here. So, Senator Messi, just bear with me. I'll still come to you on that. It's because I want to really hear from you on this. Or Richard Jimo, just bear with me a moment because I dragged Richard Jimo out of a meeting. His surname is Jimo. And from what we read there, it is a disgrace to be called Bosse. It is even a bigger disgrace to be called Jimo in this day and age. So it was very important for me to have two of them in this webinar tonight, and I thank them. So, but Richard Jimo, please bear with me. I don't know whether Senator actually raised up a hand based on what Tolu was saying or something. Senator, let me give you the ground now. I'll go to Richard Jimo next. Joy is there as well, and then of course, like I said, Bosse. And I know there's a question that I still need to go back to Bidemi Onojobi with. So Senator, please, you can take the floor now.
Sir, that's fine. Let them go. I will comment later.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Richard Jimo, let's have your take so that if you have to go back to that, even though I'm hoping that you can hang on to the end, Richard Jimo, but just in case you have to go back to the town's meeting, then at least we can release you at some point. But let's hear from you. What's your take on it?
Sorry, let the lady go and I'll come after her.
Oh, fantastic. So at least we have that. Oh, she already kindly yielded the floor to you, but thank you for yielding it back to her. Richard, so Kemi, Senator, let's come back to you. Senator, you go.
I was just gonna make a comment. Sorry, I'm losing my voice right now. So I have been on both sides of this conversation, right? Mr. Luke did mention something. So I'll go back from when I was a young pharmacist in Nigeria. And I was looking for a job, right? And I applied to, National Hospital in Abuja, right? And I kept getting denied. My dad is a Muslim. So my name is Oluwakemi Mercy Oyedoku, right? My dad told me one day, he said, why did you remove your Muslim name from your name? I said, because it's too much, right? Like Oluwakemi, my mom is a Christian. Oluwakemi Mercy Rashida Oyedoku, like it won't fit. And he told me, he said, this can actually prevent you from getting a job in the north. That it feels like if I add Rashida, I will stand a better chance of getting a job in the north, right? Which is true, but I decided not to. I was like, if that's the case, that's fine then. Then I applied to UCH in Nevada. Now, in a Western world like America, believe it or not, your name matters, right? It really, really matters, even when you're looking for a job. Not because they don't want to hire you. Most time is because in the corporate world, they can't pronounce your name and they don't want to butcher your name because they can get in trouble. I've had a vice president of my company called me before because he misspelled my name. Instead of Kemi, he wrote Kimi. And he realized and he gave me a call personally to apologize because he knows he can get in trouble for it. So when you submit your resume and they see Oluwakemi, they're like, you know what, skip. Next. Because they don't even want to go through that stress. Not because they don't want to try. Your resume looks good. You have the qualification, you have everything. But they're like, if I call this person and I don't pronounce it correctly and they call my HR, I can get in trouble. So they skip it, right? And me, after I became like a hiring manager too, I made it a point of duty to actually go on YouTube, know how to pronounce that name before I call them. But the question is, how many people can do that? I have a friend, his name is Sydney, like the city in Australia. His last name is Onagwo or something. They called him for an interview. He said he could see the reaction on his face because for some reason, they just assumed he was Asian, he was Chinese. And that was how he got the job. If they knew he was African for that job, they wouldn't even have called him. So names matters a lot. And on the other side, right, when I first moved back to the US, right, I always use my first name, Mercy. Mercy. You understand? People, even the Mercy is so difficult for them to pronounce. I'm like, what's so difficult pronouncing Mercy? And people assumed that wasn't actually my name, right? And they start asking me, is that your name? Is that your name? Because, most people, when they come to the country, they change their name. So that pissed me off. So I went back and just started using my first name. So, but what I do now is people ask me, how do I pronounce my name? I tell them the meaning of the name. I said, Oluwa always means God. Kemi means cares for me. So it's God cares for me, but I just go by Kemi. So it makes it interesting to them. So I told them, anywhere you see Oluwa or Ade or this is what it means. Like Mr. Olu said, sometimes we have to change the narrative too. We have to let them accept it. And some of them will be like, wow, that's so beautiful. My name has no meaning, right? So it's both ways. I've been there and I really can't completely judge the people that decide to say, I'm just going to shorten my name. I'm just going to go by my name because you don't know their stories, right? But like everybody said, we have to change the narrative as well. But some people, that might cost them a lot. That might cost them a job. That might cost them an opportunity. So it would take time. I just don't want everybody to be too extreme in judging those people that have decided to do that because now I'm in like top management. You have to pronounce my name. I'm your boss. You have to pronounce my name. That's what I want you to call me. But what about people that are not in my situation? That change of name might be the only thing that will get them is, a source of living, right? So let's just be careful about the power of a single narrative, right? Sometimes there's more stories to all those people. Why they decided to say, you know what, I'm going to change my name. We talk about Indians and Asians. Some of them, all those Asian people, majority of them, their first name is Kim. They've changed it. And because they've been in a situation where nobody's going to try to call them for an interview. I've seen it, right? So there's always, we have work to do in our community, like wherever we find ourselves. And like you said, it starts with us, right? But we have to think about it. So also think about another example is you guys know the issue with 911 in America. How everybody think every Muslim is a terrorist, right? People like most of those Muslims begin to change their child's first name because they're not at work when you see Abdul, Jimo, they're thinking of something else, right? The environment has shaped. So name is actually very everybody's really very careful now, right? Or you bring in Abdullah, whatever, to the office. Like, who is this person? So there are things that have changed, people's perspective on things, right? So I really can't blame people that decided to say, you know what, I'm just going to go by. And sometimes people just get tired of people like butchering their names, right? But names are very important and I love it. I love that I go by my first name. I love that I can teach them how to pronounce it. I love that I can teach them what it means, right? Because it means a lot to me. And as parents, we need to do better as well. We need to let our kids take pride in those names as well, because the world out there is rough, right? If we don't build that confidence and that culture in them, it's just a matter of something happening to them. They're like, you know what? This is my name. And they'll change their first and last name completely with no root to the country, right? So that's just my take. Thank you.
Wow, Kevin, thank you so much. You really attack the matter from two perspectives, in support of and against. Talking about the Kemi, your lower Kemi name, and then the Mercy name. How the Mercy actually helped to unlock the door to a large extent in the Western world. How the Oluwakemi also made it easy for you to tell them where you came from, and actually, in fact, also buying a bit into what Tolu had said earlier in terms of that your name actually igniting some form of curiosity from them, wanting to know more about you, about your culture. So I mean, that's a double-edged sword that you've just actually used there, telling us that it's really beneficial to use your English name, and also going ahead to tell us about the wonders, the beauty that using your traditional name could actually, it says a lot about where you come from. People become more interested in you and everything. We've got in fact, I have some people, I think Joy Emele, I believe, I think this is the first time she'll be joining our webinar. It's so good to have you, Joy. We want to have everybody's perspectives. So Joy, Boss, I'll come to you next, but I want to go to Richards Jimo. Richards Jimo. In fact, Senator Mercy actually talked about Richards, the first part of your name that's so beautiful that you can, now, this is me saying this to you clearly from what we read in that post. Jimo, your surname is so bad, it's so old school that you should be ashamed of having it. How do you respond to that?
I'm not.
Hello?
Not ashamed. It's my granddad's name who I was back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. It was breaking initially.
Yes, I said I cannot be ashamed. It's my granddad's name, and I was very fond of my granddad. Matter of fact, I had the option of not using Jimo, but using my dad's name, which is Mohammed. But I elected to use Jimo, and I've always been known as Jimo, even right from my primary school days, because I was very fond of my granddad. So it's, I mean, a name to me, it's so just writing back from what Nkemi was saying, which is absolutely what is obtainable in the Western world. I remember this year when I was watching its early parts in the noughties. One of the Dragon Dens, James Caan, he was the only Asian on the as the Dragons, and he was plotting how he rose to fame, and so obviously he's a Muslim from Pakistan, but his name he's a multi-millionaire now in the United Kingdom, and his name is James Caan. So in one of this, live interviews which was given, they were asking him, how can a proper Asian-looking guy be named James Caan? So he explained is actually, I think his first name is Abdullah, but he said he's been very, very ambitious in life. He had always strived, you understand, to to be the best among the crowd wherever he is. So in school, it was made sure it was a straight A student and that. But he said when he got to that prime of his life, when he started, he's just fresh out of uni, started jump hunting, just like what Kemi said. Submit his CV, submit his resume, Just that first name only, Abdullah. They'll just pass it by. So he said he then actually had to go work with some recruitment agency. And it was there they literally made him aware that, mate, Abdullah Khan, you don't stand no chance, especially with this type of sector which you want to get into. You wanted to get into the commercial. You remember this guy that got jailed? This guy, PR. He wanted to get into the PR sector.
Yeah.
So, to manage celebrities and whatever. So they said, mate, you stand Abdullah Khan, you stand no chance. Just forget it. But because he had that drive and passion, he kept at it. And still, he says, for 5 good years, it was not getting no headway. He says he was just lying on his bed one day and he just said to himself, I've got the most brilliant resume anyone can get in life. And I've been literally been told to my face and constantly been told to my face that it's just because of my name, Abdullah Khan. Okay, let me just try one experiment. He said he was just lying there and he said, let him just try one experiment and see. Took his resume the next day and just removed Abdullah and put James. Governor, he said he had more than 25 offers that week simply because he just removed Abdullah and replaced it with James. So he said, and he just said to himself, you know what? If this is what it would take, then it doesn't change me or take anything away from me. And to his credit, his reason to become a multi-millionaire in the United Kingdom, do you understand, whereby he now has the capacity to be who he wants to be in life or achieve whatever he wants to achieve in life. But he had to make that fundamental decision, if you ask me, on changing, just taking Abbey of his name. And it's because of the society which he found himself. Because I'm very sure an Abdullah Khan wouldn't have been an issue for him and say in Pakistan. On the contrary, if he was a James Khan in Pakistan, perhaps he might face challenges there. So yes, I agree. Context is always very, very important in practice like this. In my case, I'm Kayode Jimo. Like I said, Jimo's my granddad's name. As Kevin said too, they do ask me, well, they can't even pronounce Coyote. So apparently, it sounds like an American word. And it's this wide desert dogs in Texas, coyote. So that's what. So they'll say coyote. So it's, but what? Just call me K. I'm fine with K. And when they ask me what Juma is, Juma is just Friday. It's just it's an African colloquial pronunciation of Jumat. So it's just Juma. So yeah, it's it is what it is. It's the changing times, but my own children, I don't think they. I think the society which they are growing up in now, it's more liberal, more diverse, more multicultural, and more accepting. If you see what I'm saying, the children which we are having now. So my children, they have my full name as their surname. So they have a double barrel name. So it's George Kaude Jimo. So that way and they don't, their teachers, their friends, their family, they call them Kaudi Jima. So even them too, they call themselves Kaudi Jimas. So yeah, it's I know it's unfortunate some people will still see it as an issue in this day and age, but to me, it's really not. It's you know, we'll tend to flow with the tide of times. I yield the floor back, sir.
Thank you so much, Richard Jimo. Don't go yet. I know you're in now the meeting, but I need, because I'm still coming back to you. There are quite a few of you that have got some specific things. I know Lady Bossa is in the house, the woman who was at the center of it all. But I'm going to call her after Joy. I want to hear Joy's perspective on this, especially, of course, we've given the conversation an international dimension as well in terms of, okay, what happens when you go to the Western world and all this. But even within the context, even within Nigeria itself, there is this thing about we should be more westernized than we are. You know, even those who do not intend to even leave the shores of Nigeria. Some don't even want to be called. You know, nobody wants to be called. I'm not saying, for example, you know, it's just saying, oh, what's your first name? Your first name is Akpabio. Your first name is Okon. Your first name is Ogedengbe, for example. You know, it could be anything. It could be any name from anywhere. Of course, before we go into this, I remember when I did read in the papers when the elections for the principal officers of the National Assembly were to be conducted, when they were sworn in on the 13th of June. Before then, shortly before then, a lot of people were actually protesting, even Northerners, and some people saying, why would there be another Southwesterner, for example, who will be Speaker of the House of Reps? And then they were like, you know, that how can you, you know, someone is already president from Southwest, you're going to bring another Muslim Southwesterner, Tajuddin. And people had to say, well, wait a moment, this guy is actually from Kaduna State. But because many of us, and let me be honest as well, until I saw Honorable Tajuddin, the current Speaker of the House of Reps, every Tajuddin I've actually seen, I've actually been from the Southwest. They've been Southwestern Muslims. You know, so a name has a way of representing you, geolocating you somehow and all those things. But we seem to no longer be taking pride in these things. And it's not, of course, we're talking about names, but culturally as well, you know, there seems to be this thing to, the more distant you are from your culture, the more acceptable you seem to be to so many people and all things, you know. So, I mean, I like the way that we've had different perspectives. We've not all totally agreed on this same central theme, or is it okay, it's not okay. People have come with different ideas, and I love the beauty of it tonight. Let's hear from you, Joy.
Hello, good evening, everybody.
This is the first time I'm hearing the voice.
No. I've been here before, but like I always explain, I have issues logging into the Zoom. I was able to get today because the meeting code is different, the passcode, so I'm able to log in. For some reason, I can't follow the links that have been sent. So when I try, I can't log in.
My apologies, Joy. Thank you so much.
It's better this way. So I was able to just individually put in all those figures, and I was able to connect.
Okay, thank you. So go on, Joy.
Okay.
We read from you quite a lot, you know, so it's good to hear your
like a lot of people refer to me as Sir, but I'm actually a woman.
Oh,
I know a lot of people. Yes, I always see that prefix. But
you're a man.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. No, I've always known because you know, it's like implied we do mixed tag teams, and you're the tag team partner of Josh anyway. You know, so
oh yes, so
okay, so go on.
It's you know, like in the international space, there's a difference. Maybe depending on where people are coming from. You know, you look at it from the perspective of where you are and where you're going to. For me, my name, I'm originally Delta. My name has always been Ogogo. That was my first name. Ogogo means joy. And I've noticed over time there were so many issues pronouncing the name. It used to be like a joke. Ogbogbo. There are so many names. And then my surname is now Ogegede. So most people will be like, Ogedengbe. And I'm like, I'm not Yoruba. My name is Ogegede. You know, so over time, I just realized it was becoming difficult. You know, there was so much fun. I know children, nobody wants to be bullied for anything. So eventually, we're not like, okay, my name originally was just Ogogo Gegede. So my parents somehow, I don't know how it happened, they just coined it and put Joy somewhere. So originally, I'm not a Joy. Joy is just an interpretation of my Delta name. So somehow, Joy now found his name into my name. And he seemed to have brought peace. So, but over time, I've realized that, you know, there was a time I was working as a temp in IBM, and we had this, I think she was working for like an auditing firm, and her name was Ogogo, and everybody was pronouncing it well. So there was something I think Kemi said. Maybe when you are at the top, it's easier for people to call your name as it is because they just have to call your name. But when you are coming up the ladder, nobody wants to be bothered with, once you tell them what's your name and you are giving them like 4 syllables, I think everybody's like, don't you have any other name? Because I realized that it was difficult for my name to come up, but when you get to the top, everybody said they call. There was a lady, I think she's even married to a Yoruba, but they were always calling her name Uwogo. So that thing just struck a chord into me that, you know, I can actually get my name back. Maybe when I'm in that position where people have to call my name, you know, they won't just, there will be no choice but to call your name. But of course, I just let it go. It's just Joy. All my certificates carry Joy first. I just let it go. But now for my children, I realized that you also don't want to make your children, you don't want to, in the Nigerian setting now, I got married to an Igbo person and I'm like, since I'm married into the 3 major tribes, my children's name should come first. Their native names should come first. You don't know where they want to be tomorrow. They might want to be governor, they might want to be some minister, and that name will need to be called first. So all my kids, they have English names, so hidden somewhere, but their first names are their Igbo names. And I emphatically call them those names. The only thing that I've done is, like somebody said, maybe Abosede is an old name. I just made sure that their names are not those old names. They are easy to pronounce, they are pronounceable as you, and they have great meanings. And I love
the Joy, sorry, I don't want to interrupt your line of thoughts. Everybody that has said something a bit controversial tonight, I've actually gone deeper into it, you know. So you're saying to me that, so you seem to be in agreement that Abosede is really old-fashioned, old school, that we should not be doing that.
No, what I'm saying is, I don't know because I'm not Yoruba. I'm just saying from the perspective.
Abosede simply means, it's just like naming your child Sunday, because it actually means Sunday, you know, but a boy, we normally name the boys Sunday. And then the girls, they go like Abosede, just like Jimo. Jimo is Friday, you know, so go on.
No, I don't know the meanings, but what I'm saying is, you know, like we have some names. Okay, let me use the settings that I know more. You know, growing up, we had those. I don't know whether it's just Muslim. We had like I'm trying to remember old names. You just had some names that you know that they are names of people, names of their parents. But okay, let me use in the concept of the Igbo, maybe because I already know. For example, now there's some names like Emeka, Chinedu, Chukwu Wanting. I didn't want those kind of old, you know, just old themed names. Not that they are old though. You know, you can have the same meaning, but just a different pronunciation or a different arrangement. That's for me. You know, your name must start with a Chukwu something. You know, instead of doing the Chu, like my girl's name, you know, some people they'll say Chukwu something. My girl's name is Somtochi, and Somtochi is the same thing as God. Let's praise God. But it's just a simple arrangement, but you get the same. So there are some names that are just seemed like it is old. But for me, in the cultural concept, these people, you need to give that identity to your children. If now she finds herself in international space and she decides that, no, I want Eliora first, I don't want Somtochi first because maybe that name is not easy to pronounce, then it will not be up to her to change it. But first of all, give them the identity that they have first. Now, like we said some examples, somebody goes somewhere, he's looking at the Abdul, whatever his name is not opening doors for him. He can now decide, okay, let me leave out the Abdul and just take the Khan. So, but initially, you need to give them that cultural identity. They know where they are from. They know the meaning of their names. They know that, you tell them tomorrow you can be this, you can be that, you just build your culture into them. If now in the future they decide that, okay, I want to be, like I said, I appreciated it when somebody was being called. And I told myself, I said, one day I'm going to change my name back to Ogogo. Everybody will have to pronounce that. And they have to pronounce it well because I'm in some top position. But build what they need to be first into them. And then when they go on in life, they can now decide in the place or in the culture where they are, they can now decide to shift. But give them the edge. Put some English name in there because the world is a global place now. People are going to school everywhere. We also don't want people to butcher our names and call it, there's a way you butcher a name, the name won't even have the relevance it's supposed to have in your life, So I'm just on both sides. You just make sure you build the ones you need to build. And then when they go up and they see that, okay, you might even be the one to advise. Like I said, it was my parents that brought up Joy. I don't even know where Joy came. Joy is just a meaning of my native Ogogo. But at the end of the day, when the thing was so much, I kept complaining, Mommy, they're spoiling my name. They just said, okay, since Joy is the meaning of your name, put in Joy in your name. And as I grew up, Joy just came to the front. So, but like I was saying, one day, maybe when I'm in top management, I'm the MD, everybody has to call me Ogogo. when we get to that that bridge, we'll cross it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Can I ask every PLIDE member, please, Ogogo, can we call her Ogogo? Because she's a top person in PLIDE. She's one of our opposition leaders, as you know. But I really want to thank you. It's always great fun. For me, I'd rather have people, in a group that have views and are expressing it respectfully. I always stress that, rather than, people who are just quiet and we don't even know that they exist. We don't know what they feel. Thank you so much. And you actually made a point about that, Ogogo. And I will confess, for example, I used to work in a bank called Industrial Merchant Bank, and my chairman then, the great industrialist, and Chief Samuel Adedoyi, by virtue of my job, of my role I had to, take certain documents to go to him for signing quite a lot of times, either in his home or in his office, and so there was that kind of access that a little boy like me shouldn't have had at that time, but I had by the grace of God. And I remember one day that the son got married, his first son, Mr. Adedoyi, and then I got married to a Delta girl. And I remember his private secretary, the private secretary of them, having to come to the chairman's office and say, chairman, Mr. Ayo's wife is there, Ogogo. Adedoyi, I'm telling you, I just remember straight away, Ogogo. And for me, I couldn't actually pronounce it as well. It was a name that was a bit strange to me. Not strange, but I mean in terms of the pronunciation at that point, at that time. So I can imagine what you would have gone through with that name. So can I ask everybody in PLIDE, her name is actually Ogogo. Can we all just call her Ogogo? She's Mrs. Denele now, so that makes it a lot easier. Thank you so much, Joy. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so now let's go to the woman who, and I'm going to ask you, Abosede, your name is old-fashioned. Your name is old school. Why should you still be bearing the name? Lukman Ayole, please. This webinar is not continuation of your disagreement with. I know you, Joshua, and Joy. You're always on different sides of the equation, always fighting, and I enjoy it quite a lot. And That was the reason why I even asked at one of our spaces. I really want to listen to you guys actually square it off. Let's air you off. And thanks to Tolu and the SecGen for making it happen, because they're in charge of that. So let's hear from you, Bosse. What is your perspective on this? And please, Abidemi Onojo, please be ready, because I'm going to be questioning you on what you said earlier.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
You had concluded already that my name is old school and old fashioned. So I'm going to start from.
No, I mean, people just give their perspective, and. So, for example, what Joy said now, Joy said something very interesting. Said, obviously, we know that Chuku, when you say Chuku means it's just like say Oluwaseyi. So they say Chuku Jeku, Chuku Nonso, and or Abasi, something Abasi, from our cousins from Calabar, Kwaibo. So she's now saying, what, she finds it more contemporary to go like Somtochi, for example, which still should actually go with Chuku Somto, maybe Somto Chuku or something like that. But she's just gone like Somtochi, for example. Do you get what I'm saying? So this is your name now, and your reaction was really as strong as one should expect naturally. If someone messes with my name, that should actually elicit a very strong reaction from me as well. And for me, I know you did say to me when we had our small talk earlier today, you were like, and I said that reaction was actually perfect, but because that's your name, I feel very strongly about it, and I've always known you. I've known you for upwards of how many years now? 30. I think I've known you for about 31 years. So what is your take on this name? We've had Jimo, and that's why, like I said, we got Jimo involved in this. Jimo talked, and we didn't even mention Ogogo. But thank God that Joy actually brought it into the equation. So is your name old school? If you assuming you had a child tomorrow, would you want to name your child Abosede? Would you want your grandchildren who are just going to be born very soon by God's grace for any one of them to get Jimo or Abosede or Ogogo? Or even you can use my own name, Olatunde, so which might be old school to some people as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll be coming from different perspective on this. Starting with my name, Bosse. Okay, from the incept, when I come to realize my name, Abosede, I fell in love with the name. Why? Because I don't need to explain to the Yoruba people. On the day I was born is an added information. Oh, this person is born on a Sunday. That's so good. So I fell in love with that. And with the fact that as a Yoruba instructor, I would want my name to be called my name. I wouldn't want it to change, because I often tell my students that your name can pave way for you, depending on how you take it. And I made myself an example, because my name is actually Abosede Fola. That's why I wrote it there. Abosede Folashade Monei. I even called my father's name. And I'm so proud. When I was in secondary school, my father's name, in fact, most of my schoolmates, they can't even remember Bosse. It's Monei. In fact, they made jest of the name today, said that some of them were calling me Money Back. Money, they just twisted the name as much as they want to. But because I know the meaning of my name, I am not deterred. I didn't get angry, but for the fact that you can still call it, I am happy with that. So they call me Monei, and I love it. And the meaning of the name is so fantastic. And it means Omonei, people that I have people at my back. I have people that I can lean on, usually for a large family. Now, coming to my Folashade name, my father said, do you know why I named you Folashade? I said, I don't know. He said it was the period that your mom was pregnant for you that I had the best job. Then he had a job with the first American bank in Nigeria. They were actually Americans that came to Nigeria to do banking job. And it was one of their what's it called now? Their workers, and he said that it was when my mom was pregnant for me that the door opened for him. And that was why he named me Folashade. Now, I ask you, would you want to drop such a name, that brought about great wealth to your father, and so on? Now, boss said, now, why did I come out on Kems? Is my way of wanting to draw Kems to myself. Okay, I'm not that aggressive. I'm not a lion, though. I can be very disciplined, but I'm not that aggressive. I just want our attention, and sometimes we can be able to talk about it, because for anybody and everybody I come across, I always preach to them about names, because names goes a long way in the life of man, especially in Nigeria. I'm not even talking about outside Nigeria. Now, this Kemi or Kems is a Nigerian, is talking in Nigeria, as a Nigerian, is in Nigeria. So why would you want to play down on names? It's my name. I don't care whether it is old or whether it is ancient. As far as it's concerned, is my native name, and I cherish it so much. Now, you coming this way will make others to feel somehow concerning their name. For example, somebody that is very some certain names that they call Oriki, like Ayinde, Ajasa, Ayike, Ajagbe. These are beautiful names that make your head to swell. For example, our grannies, they used to call us Anyike Omo mi Atata. By the time you hear those names, and even when they want to collect something from their children, they call them by those names. Why? Because it makes our head to swell that, I'm the one bearing this beautiful name. So names go a long way in the life of a man. For example, if I decide to leave this country and go outside the country, I have another knowledge from those ones that have been there that, it can be a deterrence to my moving forward. And that does not mean that I'm going to leave it. I'm still going to bear it. I may just twist it. I can just, call me B. You can call me B. For example, my children, they call me Auntie B. Auntie B. Why? Because probably I don't want to stress them on the pronunciation. Even my name in Nigeria is misspelled or miscalled. I'm bearing Dara. My name is actually Dara, but they call me in my place of work Dara, Mrs. Dara, Mrs. Dara, Mrs. Dara. So Dara, I shall know that they still call it. They still call the name, you understand? So that is why I was like, no, this trend should not continue, because it's not the first time I saw it. I've seen it with somebody also downplaying on people's name. Okay, the likes of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Why is it that Schwarzenegger is not saying that? Don't call me Schwarzenegger, because you guys cannot pronounce it very well. Just call me only Arnold. But because, he decided to put it there, that, okay, this is my name, or names like Huawei. If you want to call Huawei in its real sense, you miscall it. You won't call it the way it is. So what I was trying to say is that let us preserve our culture. Let us go by what we are known for. We are in Nigeria. We are not in America. We are not in UK. So why would we not want to take up our names? Of course, you asked a question about if I will name my child Sunday. None of my children is born on a Sunday. I may name my child Bosse because I love the name. If I do not like the name, I won't name my child. And as a matter of fact, all my children, they have native names. They don't have English names because I don't believe in English names. Okay? All of them, from the first to the fifth, Oluwaseun, Oluwapelumi, Toluwani, because that is, I cherish anything that is, Yoruba, traditional and all that. They don't have English name. I'm like, you don't need it. You are Nigerians. Okay, so if later on in life they want to add English name to their name, that's all. That's for them, not me. Well, I've been able to play my part to make sure that, you people should see yourself as Nigerians, and not only as Nigerians, but a proud Nigerian that is very proud of the name wherever you are and wherever you go. I am still trying to lay my hands on Kems. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So for non-Yoruba speakers, you just cracking a joke there. That the Ken's the original person, the person who put out the original post. That if she actually gets hold of that person will be in trouble. So I mean, you've actually. It's so interesting, that all of us, we've got diverse opinions on this, and yet somehow all of us, it's everybody, I think we're dovetailing more and more towards fitting into whatever systems we find ourselves, whatever societies we find ourselves. But there's so much importance in a name, because for me personally, it gives me joy once you call me, once you're able to, when I see someone from another country, another culture, make an effort. Someone said to me on, was it Thursday or Friday, said, you know what? He said, how do you call your name? I said, look, you're going to struggle. Just call me Faye or call me Tune. Just leave it, make it that short. And this person actually said to me, look, try me. And I told this person my full name. A white man, a British, the man called my name so beautifully in such a way that there was a smile on my face. So I actually think there's still that thing about about making that effort, about going that extra length, and it's been such a beautifully attended webinar. I don't know what got to everybody about this topic, whether it was a link like Joy said, like Ogo said, or whether it was just the importance of this to a lot of people. And we've reached out to Kems, and we're hoping that Kems will be here next weekend, next Sunday, so that we can actually get perspective from her as well. She's the one who did the original post that triggered these the spirit of the reactions across board. So I know that Oluwatosin Miss Adepo just joined us. I don't know. Having just joined, maybe she's been watching on social media. I mean, let's go to Abilemi Onojobi first before I go to her to let her. And all of you, you're still going to have your say. Please just use the hand to just raise your hand, and I will definitely, or you can put your messages or questions in the chat. But please just use the hand to raise your hand, and I'll make sure I will still call you. We've got about 20 minutes, 20 odd minutes more. We're not going to be here a minute beyond that. So I'm going to try to call you as much as possible. Abidemi Onojobi, please. That question I posed to you, how do you answer it? Hello, PLIDE Onojobi. Are you in transit? Because we can't hear you suddenly. It says, oh yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Oh, it's gone bad again.
Hello, I put the question again.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, we would hear you, and then your voice, there's this noise that is coming from your background that is actually...
No, there's no noise.
Are you using like a headset or something? Or maybe there's something that is interfering. Huh?
What's the question?
Okay, you know what? Hello, PLIDE Onojobi, can I make a suggestion? Can you hear me now? Okay, we have you now. Hello, can you talk again?
I have to put on an headset now.
Oh, fantastic! So we can hear you. We can hear you now. So you talked about originally. You talked about so many things, but let me just put it in another form for you. Basically, let me put it in this way for you, because that was a bit personal in terms of you made a personal statement about your family structure and also. But let me put it to you. Would you name your child, and let's even take it beyond Bose, beyond Jimo, beyond Ogogo, beyond Chukwucheku, Chukwu Nonso, some names come across as really, really very strong. Yeah, okay, Joy, I'll come to that, Joy. Now, let me ask, how do you situate this debate, name debate, within the context of the loss of our culture as a people? Our children are struggling. Our children can barely speak our languages now. And the generations are just going, they hardly even identify with their cultures, with their, many don't even know what to, in fact, I had to say at a point, to certain kids, I say, look, I said to certain kids, I said, if I take my children home to Africa, for example, I say, you know what? There's certain elderly people that I dare not disrespect. And you cannot, as my child said, because you're from United States or Canada or Britain or whatever, go to Africa and go and disrespect people there. Do you get what I'm saying? But how do you situate these things? And would you consider giving any of those names to your children, or do you also think that those names are too old?
Okay, thank you very much, sir. So for me, culture and traditions are dynamic, right? Keeping faith with our culture is not necessarily doing it exactly the same way our forebears did it, right? My children bears traditional names, right? But they are names that are in line with the fundamentals of the culture, but not exactly like they used to. For example, I am Abidemi, which is a situational name, right? My father was away on studies when I was giving back to, right? So the name explains itself. My surname is Onojobi, which is named after the profession of my forebears who were artists, right? So basically that's the way. So it's once you understand the principle, you can always apply the principle across generation. My first child is in Niolua. It's a faith-based name, but it is culturally Yoruba, right? And my second name is Olufoladara, right? So, and basically, really, yes, it's not the old names, but uh, through the names, I've been able to marry my faith with my culture in a way that I'm not betraying any, right? So for me, is this hard work that people really fail to do, that they just make them junk the cultural names or the way of the culture? Because the essence of name, you don't necessarily need to give your child a name someone else had born before. You can create your own name once you understand the fundamentals, right? Or no, basically, how our name derive in Yoruba is about your family profile, Oriki, or in case you have some chieftaincy title or profile within your family, your profession, your religion, your trade or vocation, right? The situation of birth and beliefs, right? So if you understand that core fundamentals, you can still adopt it within the scope of your contemporariness, right? So you don't necessarily need to really go back to 1798 Yoruba names, because even the Yoruba language we speak today is not the 18th century, 19th century Yoruba language that were being spoken. So basically, there is an influence of globalization, right? And of course, some have mentioned it. I profile it as international politics, right? But people have helped me to define it. I think Senator said workplace politics. For me, that's the way I will put it. And it's an international politics because it will not happen to you in Nigeria, right? And they will really do the same thing to people that comes from, they will really do such to a German, right? Because they will limit how they do it to a German, but they will do it to you in Nigeria, right? And basically, somehow, the truth is this: we also need to appreciate the difficulties other people have in pronouncing our local name. And basically, we have one of the most beautiful language around, right? Because for me, basically, when people find it difficult to pronounce my name, I just introduce the tonal part of the name, right? Which is the Ami Yoruba, which is musical. So I just tell them, do re mi, remember do re mi in your music, no, your musical note. Music is a global language. So I just say, remember the do re mi. So my name is Bidemi, Midomi, right? And I found a situation that where people, even people that are non-Yorubas, even within Nigerian context and even people abroad, get to understand it easier that way, because I gave them the musical note of the name, which is our local way of, is part of the culture. The tonal marks on the Yoruba language is part of it. So if you understand that, it helps, right? Yes, they giving people the introducing the meaning of the name to people help you to make it much more significant for the person to learn to pronounce it right. So basically, for me, I don't see any big issue, any reason why we cannot mix the cultural context of all of these things with our contemporariness. And for me, if you ask me, how did we get here? I think one of the key issues was our nationalism in Nigeria, where we are all forced to speak English, right? We are lucky today that we are living in a Nigeria where it was not an issue. There was a time that if you don't know how to speak English, you can't have a space at the national level in this country. So this is how we came into this. Then the global dimension added to it, because if you want to be a Nigerian, then you have to speak English. I've heard of people who had issues with their bosses in civil service because they were speaking their local dialect with other people, and the boss feels, oh, you are talking about me. If you want to be open, you should speak the language we all hear, right? So this is one area. So it's really not something why we beat people that as if people are doing it intentionally, right? I believe that is something we found ourselves in. Of course, just like every other thing about our culture, the way, how people came about marrying multiple wives and all of that, people forget where it came from. That people needed more faithful people to work on their farms. And because the larger your farm, the more wives you need to help you take care of different area of your farm. And at a point, people saw that, oh, the biggest guys are the ones that had more wives, multiple wives. So people looked at marrying multiple wives rather than look at how the man came into marrying multiple wives. So it's similar thing we are having in this cultural dimension, that because we are forced to learn English, to adopt English, most of the people that went to school in the 60s, 40s, and all of that, almost all of them had to adopt an English name, right? Because of the situation of their environment at that time. Now that the global environment is recognizing the diversity, the value of diversity, and they are going back, if you check, one of the things that is going on around the world now is that universities are now adopting what they call indigenous studies, because they have realized that the best way to extract the maximum value from a people is to understand how they naturally do those things, right? So while we are still here in Nigeria talking about we want to blend, the outer world is gradually coming back to let's even understand the indigenous way of doing things. So you see things around indigenous medicine, indigenous fashion, indigenous trade, and all of that. And a lot of money are going into this in terms of research, development, and all of that to understand how people used to do things before the big cultural influence came to overwhelm them. And basically, we are going back to the basics, if you ask me. So it's the best time for people to remember their roots and hold fast to it. Perhaps you'll be at certain environment where they will say, we are looking for someone who understands this. And I just pray they are not asking for someone who understands Yoruba, and you're a Yoruba man or woman, and you are there and you cannot say, oh, unfortunately.
Wow. I think it's just about rounded up before now. We can't hear him anymore, but I think he's actually done justice to it.
Hello, Convener. I'm sorry to cut you.
No, please go on.
Yes, I want to collaborate. I want to
Kevin.
collaborate on the last statement by Mr. Onojobi. You know, I had a client then. He said that I'll be searching for you. I want you to take my child Yoruba. And I'm like, what happened? He said that one of the children, he has 3 children, they're based in UK. that one of the children has an opportunity, a job opportunity with United Nations, and they have decided to send her down to Nigeria. But the only thing that made her to be disqualified was because she could not speak any of the three major languages in Nigeria. And so he was searching for me to come and teach the child Yoruba. So I now ask myself that if this man had taken it, upon himself that, oh, I'm going to make sure at least, not if they cannot speak, the totality of the Yoruba, they should be able to speak some aspect of Yoruba. You understand what I'm saying? So this still comes down to us at the end of the day, because there's no way that you will want to be so westernized that you don't want your children to learn about your culture. No, I don't think it's right. I'm just using this as, an opportunity for us to let's start with our children. Sometimes because I am a grassroots person to the core, I listen to people like King Sonny Ade, Ebenezer Obey, and all that. So whenever I'm singing the song, my children will be like, "What did he say there? Please tell me what he said there." I'm like, "Oh God, where am I going to start from?" But I still try to do my bit of making sure that they speak Yoruba. So man from them, maybe they can catch up with whatever King Sonny Ade and Ebenezer Obey is trying to say in the songs.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you, PLIDE Onojobi. I actually always assumed that your name was Ono, like the road, path, but you say it's Ono, so I probably have to.
Ono from Isheno.
What's Isheno? What does that mean?
Isheno is craftsmanship. Basket weaving, sculpture, all those things. Yes, you have that.
Wow. And thank you so much for saying that, because it also takes us back to the beginning of the conversation. For example, once I see that someone's name is Ayon, I know that historically this person came from a long family of drummers. Yeah. If you go to the Western world and you see Mr. Smith, the name is John Smith, for example. Usually it's either a blacksmith or a silversmith, goldsmith, something like that. So you know that that's from a lineage of people who were into that sort of thing. So maybe whether we should encourage it as a people as well, or we should discourage it is something to. Well, I think Mr. Adepo, you just alignment of.
Sorry, what are you going to call the son of someone into artificial intelligence?
I don't even know what to say. Artificial intelligence, that's native intelligence. Are you talking about
just on a lighter note?
I know. Thank you so much for that. It's also, let me. I know that. Of course, I've seen the usual babs from PLIDE Lukman and Joy Ogogo again. Like I said, I know they will continue their thing outside this forum. So obviously, PLIDE Lukman is the first to say no. Nobody is going to call you Ogogo there. And then, of course, she wrote, maybe when I get that ministerial position, I'll call you. And she wrote that, maybe when I get that ministerial position, our comrade will be able to call me. So, PLIDE Lukman will start calling her Ogogo when she gets that, So, and of course, Joy did put, it is essential we teach our children our local languages. It's their own first identity and they must own it. I'm even planning to pay for my kids to learn our language now better than ever. I know Bose does. She teaches quite a lot of children overseas Yoruba. She has sessions with them daily. So you Igbo teacher. If you do get one, I have a friend as well. Joy, or someone who also needs to teach his children the Igbo language. He's really very desperate right now. He's based in the United States as well. So, and then. Someone replied that Joshua, Josh is an IT person, so it's a good thing he was able to come up with something. The son will be called John JPT. I like that, John JPT. So not Chat GPT, So the son of someone with artificial intelligence will be called John GPT. We've got just one more minute, and I know Senator Mercy did put something there, so I wanted to take that the last word there, and then close this with a vote of thanks for us as well. He say you wrote, "That's not true. It happens in Nigeria." How do you mean? Just have the last word, 2 minutes, and then please just round up give the vote of thanks for this session. Like I said, I've sent out an invite to Kems, and I hope she gets across to me during the week, so that next week we'll have her, and then we'll have part 2 of this, and we'll talk about more cultural leanings, going beyond the name and even the things that are happening within our cultures. Senator Mercy. Hello, Senator. Okay, I think maybe our connection is very, 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 very bad there. It's okay. Let me call on our young future president. Josh, can you just do the vote of thanks for us, and we close the session for tonight? I think Ayola's connection is very bad.
Yeah. In fact, tonight, I must agree that it's so insightful. I didn't know we have this much professionals, in the house, like this, likes of the Yoruba professional teacher, and I must agree that everybody must have learned 1 or 2 things here. One thing I'm taking away from here is that your heritage is very important, and I'll be proud to say it, and I'll be proud to stand anywhere. Maybe when I visit the convener very soon, when maybe someone calls me from across and say, "Okay, what's your name?" I'll tell them my name is Ehem, and they'll be able to call me by that. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining tonight. A beautiful privilege to know by her voice, Madam Joy. I can't pronounce that name very well yet, though I'm practicing already. And the Ogogo, I'm still practicing, so I wouldn't want to mispronounce it. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, convener. You are such a wonderful person. God bless you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful week ahead. See you again next Sunday. Thank you. Just to add that tiny bit to this, that's all. I got my first job through that name, the HR consultant picked my CV out of 11,000 candidates because he had a soft spot for a Delta friend. Fantastic. So that name can still open doors, your native name. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a fantastic